What's up, everybody? Welcome to Talking Ball, y'all. I am Cass Hardstead, Jason Dewey, and Lance Lacoste, and it is playoff time in Louisiana high school football. We appreciate you hopping on and joining us tonight. Tonight, we are going to look back at a few of the Week 10 matchups or games that were played this past Friday, and then we will jump into the playoff brackets. We won't get in too deep into the matchups for the first round. We'll kind of give some big picture takes. Some things that stand out to us. Tuesday, we will jump into the matchups as they stand in the playoff bracket. But this is always one of the better days of the year in Louisiana high school football. As the playoff brackets get rolled out, the road to the Dome gets laid out for everyone. But it starts in Week 10. And we go ahead and we look back to Week 10. We preview District 2 5A. We talked about the two matchups in which the district champ would be crowned. One of them being West Monroe at Ruston. Ruston with a 49-44 victory at home over West Monroe in an absolutely unbelievable game. It feels like every game between the top four teams in 2-5A was decided by less than a touchdown. This is another one that came down to special teams as Dalen Powell, running back for Ruston, scores two special teams touchdowns, and it claims the district championship for the Ruston Bearcats.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this matchup, it always kind of comes down to, or it seems like every matchup has kind of come down to this, right? Like some type of special teams play, any type of game of significance in this district. It seems like it's been just a district of momentums and big swings. Ruston kind of outlasts a West Monroe team. West Monroe team, guys, that really haven't played on the road a lot this season. So this is a tough game to, again, have to go on the road with after having played all your most difficult games at home. And, again, I feel like it's just another opportunity for these two teams to kind of get ready for what's to come in this playoff bracket, because we know that Ruston has been – kind of the front runner, and it kind of played suit. They ended up with the number one seed overall, as we're going to dive into brackets later. But West Monroe kind of sets themselves up in a predicament where you're likely going to be playing a rematch in 2 weeks. And that's the difficult thing about playing in this Catholic League and in this 2-5A, where it almost kind of seems like opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of the select and non-select sides of the bracket. But two really good football teams, and again, they have a shot to play each other down the road, but in the Dome at least.
Think about West Monroe's three losses. They lost to the number one seed in Ruston, the number one seed out of Division II non-select in North DeSoto, and the number two seed Neville. Like, that's their three losses. That's pretty tells you everything you want to know about the record, right? And so, yeah, this is definitely a team you wouldn't want to see in the playoffs, as battle-tested as it gets. Great running game. They're going to play great defense. They just, they faced a great offense in Ruston. And then you said it, the defense this time was just special teams. They basically gave up 14 points just on special teams. So, yeah, this is a heck of a way for Ruston to go earn that number one seed to close the season.
Yeah, no, this was an unbelievable physical football game. It kind of had a little bit of everything. Christian Ponte for West Monroe breaks two long touchdown runs. This is an offense for West Monroe, especially with the running game. And if Trez Davis, you can get the ball to him, you don't want to see these guys in the playoffs. And like you said, Lance, the three losses they had are probably the three best losses anyone could have in the state. So this is a team, it would not shock me to see them playing deep into the playoffs, or possibly see this matchup again, like you said, Jason. Elsewhere in District 2 5A, Ash traveled to Neville. This was a game, I'll be honest with you, coming into it, of these four teams, I really felt Ash was the one that was probably just a tick above the others. Just they felt a little more complete. Then they go on the road to Neville, and Neville wins 31-14. This is the lowest point total that Ash has had all year. This Neville defense, led by Coach Collins, it's kind of struggled a little bit early, but they are so good. They're so fundamentally sound, and they do so much schematically. Like, I watched a little bit of this game, and it's just they throw so much at you, but they're able to do it within their framework, and there's no busted coverages. There's no gaps left that are unattended to. They play so fundamentally sound, and this is a defense. And with Neville, if they can show up and play like this throughout the playoffs, this is a dangerous.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ash, it feels like they're not really playing their best ball at the right time of the year right here. But I mean, they are a super balanced offense. We've seen their rushing stats, their passing stats. Like, this is a pretty rare sight to see this team held to 14 points. But yeah, I think all the credit, like you said, goes to Coach Collins at defense. Like I've mentioned before, I played for Coach Collins in college. His 4-2-5 defense was, let me tell you, extremely hard to learn, first off, because there were so many moving pieces, a lot of zone blitzes, a lot of stunts, a lot of moving around, never know where a guy's going to be lined up. And so it looked like he just had a better game plan than Ash came in with. And so a huge win for Neville, great way to end the regular season. I think the good thing for Ash here is that they get this bye week. Feels like they kind of need a bye week to, just kind of get back to who they are.
There's not a single team I would argue is hotter in the entire state right now than the Neville Tigers. Yep. I mean, they've reeled off the 3 most impressive back-to-back wins in the entire state. It's funny. A few weeks ago, we're talking to them about like finishing games and special teams, and that seems like it was so long ago, guys. This is a team that had some tough games early on, but even in watching them, Cass, I know we had talked about it over and over. It felt like they were losing games that they had no business losing. Guys, they lost to Ruston in a game where they were up big in that football game, and it seems like the tide just turned late. And for them to go out and beat this Ash football team at the level, you kind of talked about that. Like this team, this Alexandria team kind of felt like maybe they would argue that, look, we lost to West Monroe on a fluky type situation. Now, I would say, okay, like I hear that argument, and I totally understand where you're coming from. But this Neville team going out, dropping a 31 spot on them, holding them to 14 points offensively, I mean, it's a really impressive effort from this Neville Tigers football team. And what's your reward? You potentially get a rematch with West Monroe in a few weeks. But, either way, I think just goes to show, like, the elite teams in elite districts are going to find themselves in great position. And both these teams set themselves really nicely in the playoffs. But again, you're still going to be looking at playing teams that are familiar foes down the stretch.
Yeah, if nothing else, these teams are battle tested for the playoffs. So this is, the 10-week and the teams that these guys played out of district, throw that in there, the 10-week gauntlet that they've run through, but especially the last 5 weeks has them prepared. Look, in this Ash team too, they were still explosive. Alex Fontenot, he has come on extremely strong for this Ash offense at the wideout spot. He has 184 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Carson Sellers, I really like, their quarterback, threw for 233. This is a team that was in the Superdome last year, and they kind of got handled by Carr a little bit. They would love nothing more than to get back and get another shot at Carr. And from what it looks like, they'll get their bye week to rest up and get ready to go and then make that run back to the Dome. We'll stay in North Louisiana for this next one. This one, kind of surprising. Again, I don't think it's surprising with the winner, but the final score was Oak Grove hosted Ouachita Christian, the Ouachita Christian team that came in undefeated. Oak Grove wins 34-21. They jump out to a 20-0 lead. The number or the stat that stands out the most for this game, considering what OCS looked like coming in, Ouachita Christian ran for only 89 yards. Oak Grove held them to 89 yards on 26 carries. They jumped out to a 20-0 lead, but defensively, this Oak Grove team, look, this is a team that they play their best ball now at this time of the year. They know how to win late in the year, and so does Ouachita Christian. But Oak Grove, extremely impressive performance on Friday night.
Yep, they are who we thought they were, right? Oak Grove, they get it done around this time of the year every year, but just looks like a very clean game out of Oak Grove. Ran the heck out of it. Oak Grove ran for 279 yards, over 6 yards a carry. They threw it well enough, 11 for 13. Bryson Reeves, the quarterback, so very efficient, throwing and running the football, and then they were great when it mattered most on 3rd and 4th downs, converting and moving the stick. So, yeah, it feels like they got out to a good start and really didn't give OCS a chance to breathe.
Guys, this is an offense that's produced, I think it was 7 consecutive, running clocks. in the season. And we talked about the last 3 weeks for this OCS team who are really going to be a big test. We know Oak Grove they play Oak Grove football. They like to run the football. They have a big, nasty group of offensive linemen, defensive linemen. They got some big boys up front. They like to tote the rock behind them. And it paid its dividends in this game going up early. When you're able to go up early and you run that type of offense, it makes it difficult to come from behind, especially when you're able to stay on the field offensively. And from what I got to watch, OCS kind of tacked on a touchdown late in that game, kind of when it felt like it was a little bit out of reach. So the score might not even really be indicative of how big of a win it was for Oak Grove. And this is a team that they're not playing in the same division, so that does kind of make a little bit of a difference. As Oak Grove is going to be in that Division III select bracket, where OCS is in that Division IV select bracket, so not going to be able to see each other again for a number of reasons. But either way, a big win for Oak Grove, and I think kind of showing, we dropped a few games, not typically what you're going to see out of Oak Grove. 2 losses, guys, 2 losses, and that's not a typical season. But still, I mean, a big win for this team no matter what.
Yeah, no, if you look at Oak Grove's schedule, their 2 losses, one was in week 1 to Cavalry Baptist, and then the other in week 7 to Mangum. So nothing to hang your head about with losing those 2 games. But man, to see that and how dominant Lost Star Christian's been all year long, to see them go to Oak Grove and Oak Grove do that to them, would not be shocked to see this Oak Grove team play the second week of December.
Before we go forward, don't forget, like, share, follow, subscribe. Again, like our Facebook page, not just our group, our Facebook page. We need to get to 100. We're still a solid 50-something short, guys. Please, if you're in the group, if you're watching, follow the Facebook page. We need it. We want to be on Facebook Live, please. I think I made the case. I think we're good, right?
That's a good plea. I'm in. I'll do it. Over down here in southeast Louisiana, Jules Sumner goes to a meet and completes an undefeated 10-0 regular season, wraps up the district championship. They beat a meet 21-7. I think I might have said this the other day. Jules Sumner, the quietest. What are they now? 21-2 over the last 2 years. They go undefeated, and it felt like they had to go through a meet to win their district championship to get that undefeated season. They are going to receive a bye in the D3 select playoffs. This offense with their running attack it's dangerous. It's explosive. In their 10 games this year, they've been held only under 40 points 3 times. All wins. Obviously, they won every game. But they're explosive. And this is a team that maybe can come out of, and I hate to say come out of nowhere, but can come out of nowhere in this D3 bracket and make a run.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a school that historically you don't know of as a football power. As we get into these brackets, there's a lot of familiar faces. This is not typically a familiar face, but there's a team that we've been on since early in the season when they had a couple big wins early, and we knew, man, it seems like a special Jules Sumner football team, and so and then it feels like they've done it in a lot of different ways. Like you said, we've seen some high scores out of them. We've seen games like this where maybe the offense wasn't as explosive, but the defense was great, forcing some turnovers, getting some sacks. But yeah, I mean, this just it feels like a very complete football team, and no reason to doubt these teams. If I was going to point out a positive for a meet, I thought they had some nice uniforms. I like their all blacks, so I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah.
That's a good
thing. They do have some nice all black unis. Their purple ones are pretty nice too. I mean, A-Meet historically does have some nice ones. I'll say this though, to Lance's point, Sumner comes into the season when you coming in that they had a really nice season last year, and the question is always, can you replicate that success? And clearly they've been able to do that, proving so with big wins over Franklinton. And the other one that Lance was on is Kentwood. Again, Kentwood, regardless whether they're a 1A team or whatever they are, you know that as a staple, right? The Kangaroos.
That's a big rivalry with those teams too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's in the in the same meet team. Look, they got weapons offensively. They've always got talent. They've always got playmakers. Palmer at quarterback is a really solid playmaker. Again, they got 6'6" wide receivers out there. They can scoot. They can move the football, and to be held to 7 points. it seems like Summer is able to do whatever they want to do or have been up to this point. Now, you're in the select bracket, and that means that comes with LCA, that comes with Calvary Baptist. It is not an easy division to play in. However, if Summer continues to play their brand of football, they have to feel confident about what they've been able to accomplish and trying to bring home a state title, doing it their way.
Yeah, no, extremely impressive. I'll also be extremely impressed, Jason, if you could tell me the mascot, which I think you know, but also the name of their stadium and what do they call their stadium?
All right. Oh, I got it. So I got it. Cowboys in the hole.
Cowboys in the hole. That is correct. The Jewel City Cowboys, they play in the hole. And they'll be in the hole through the playoffs if they at least until the semis. I think they stay.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
It sounds like it's a negative connotation when it's actually supposed to be a positive thing, right? Like they're in the hole, but no, the hole is their home stadium, so it's actually a good thing.
They want to be in a hole.
Yes, that's right. That is correct.
It's a hole they won't need to dig themselves out of, right? Like that's where they want to be. They want to be in the hole.
Speaking of being in holes, we might have a situation to talk about down on the West Bank where St. Charles and Shaw played for what was the District 9 4A district championship. St. Charles wins 24-0. They allowed 1 first down, 11 total yards, and 1 rushing yard to a Shaw offense that, look, this is their 4th time being shut out this season, which that stands out. That's shocking. Yes, the competition they played early on with Carr and Rummel, you can almost kind of understand it. They haven't scored a point since week 8. This may be something for this Shaw team that could be concerning going into the playoffs. But this St. Charles defense is, man, how impressive is this? Like this, we know they play defense, we know they play special teams, but they have shown up week in and week out this year. It's almost like another level they've hit. They've just almost hit another level. And when you pair that with the offense kind of coming of age under Landry LeBlanc with playmaker Skylar Edwards, this is a St. Charles team that is going to be mighty tough to beat moving forward.
If there was a statement victory of Week 10, I thought this was the one. Just kind of letting everybody in that division know who the best team is and kind of the favorite is here. And they did it the way that St. Charles does it. Like they played great defense. They blocked the punt. They were great on special teams. They ran the ball for over 100 yards. Landry LeBlanc threw for the way he – typical stat line, 12 of 15, 115 yards for a touchdown. Just super efficient. Well in all 3 phases. They're not run heavy or pass heavy. They do whatever it takes to win. And like you said, I mean, this is obviously concerning on the Shaw side. Good thing for Shaw too, they still have a bye. Luckily that they held on to that bye, and so this feels like a team that really needs a bye week to find some confidence, find some rhythm, find some offensive identity. I mean they played some great teams, but being shut out 2 weeks in a row versus in your district is obviously not where you want to be going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's what, when you talk about the Shaw football team, that's what stands out. When you get shut out and you're playing Rummel, okay, we've gotten to see Rummel's defense, really phenomenal defense. And their lack of offense at times is a different discussion, but defensively, I would say, Lance, you're probably on the same page as me, calling games this season in the Catholic League, probably one of the best defenses we got to see all year in Rummel. So that makes sense. Carr, again, I mean, we got to see that Carr, probably the best team I've ever gotten to see in high school football live. So, again, those teams make sense. You still put up points against LCA, but to go back-to-back weeks against teams that are in your division, that are in your district, it is definitely a concern. It's definitely a concern moving forward. Now, the fortunate thing is when you look at the bracket, they're on the opposite side of the bracket from St. Charles. But for the Comets, like, you've got to feel so good about where you are a year removed from a season where you had 3 wins going into the playoffs. This is a completely different team. They've used all the momentum from last year, the youth and experience that they gained in these opportunities. And you're talking about, Landry LeBlanc and Skylar Edwards, but also I remember Walker LeBlanc as well, been a big part of that offense in the pass game. Gabe Kugler, the tight end, the H-back, really has been their big play threat as well in the pass game. So this offense has really found themselves, but they don't need to do too much. Just stay within the offense, stay within the chain, and that defense of Monica and, the whole crew out there. Like their defense has been phenomenal. Briggs Anderson, Calm as well. Like they've got guys out there, and it's almost an extension of their offense. And once again, proving like you don't have to be the biggest, the fastest. You can play within your system and be a really good football team, and that's the St. Charles Comet way.
That is it, and no one would know better than you. But yes, that is the St. Charles Comet way. It's extremely impressive what they're able to do and what Coach Stein is able to do with that program. St. Aug and John Curtis. Look, I was beating this St. Aug drum since week 1. They made me look really, really smart this week, really all year long, but especially this week. Curtis jumps up to a 13-0 lead, and St. Aug scores 48 unanswered points. Bashawn Coulon, I know we can talk about John Johnson at Carr and, Restovich up at Loyola Prep, but for who's taking anyone over Bashawn Coulon right now? Like, this guy's been on fire with his offense. Then you add the weapons that they have with Miguel Whitley. They have a freshman, Cohen Davis, scoring touchdowns. Like, it is so impressive what they did. And look, scoring the 48 unanswered and putting up 55 on Curtis, that jumps off the page. But being in a whole 13-0 and then you only give up 28 to Curtis, like, that defense is going to be able to, if they're not going to win them games, they're going to keep them in games. And this offense is so hard to stop.
Got all kinds of stats from this one, or facts. All right, so I think we're gonna go deep on this one. Big shout out to Kevin Fayard.
Thanks, Kevin.
So Kevin Fayard, the loyal
friend of the program.
Yeah, friend of the program, voice of the Patriots. He was giving us some facts here, and so I think this wasn't a great night for John Curtis, but we'll kind of turn this into a positive. I think these are some really impressive numbers when you think of this for Coach JT and his program. But it's the most points ever giving up by JT Curtis and John Curtis under JT Curtis, which has been since 1969. So it's a hell of a feat there for St. Aug. All right. In Coach JT's first season in 1969, they gave up 52 points to Sam Barth. Sam Barth was a school that is now.
That was a guy. Is that a guy?
No, Sam Barth was a school. It is now Ecole Classique. And so that was previously the high, was 52 points, which was given up in Coach JT Curtis's first season in 1969. That year, John Curtis went 0-10, gave up 50 points twice. But still, St. Aug outdid that on Friday night.
I know Lance isn't going to try to short me here. You know who the number 3 is on the most points scored on the John Curtis Patriots is?
Was that on? Oh, yeah, it was on here. Yep.
Yeah, number 3, the St. Charles Comets, baby. Guess what? You can tell that was a long time ago. It was 50 points. You could tell that was a long time ago. So we have not scored anywhere near 50 points playing. We played Curtis one of the most in recent history. And I think one time we scored 14, and that was a big day offensively for us. It's a really good defense Curtis consistently has, man. But
he threw the zinger in there. He still threw the zinger in there, though, where St. Charles won. They beat John Curtis in 1969 and has not beaten John Curtis since 1969. He did put that in there. So.
I didn't need that factoid. I lived it. I've lived it.
But,
Thank you so much.
So the Patriots. John Curtis is 15-4 all-time versus St. Aug. The 4 losses were in 2013, which was only a 1-point game, 2014, a 2-point game, and in 2024, St. Aug beat John Curtis 28-20. So these are all really, really close games. But I guess you could say that, just over the past decade, St. Aug has had some success versus John Curtis, but nothing like what we saw this year.
No. Well, and I think in those first 2, I know for sure 13, possibly 14, a guy by the name of Leonard Fournette might have been St. Aug running back.
Yeah, that would have been in 13.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at this game, though, coming in, I really thought the big thing would be John Curtis' ability to run the football. And we talked about, having watched this St. Aug defense kind of go at it with Holy Cross, and felt like this was a really big advantage for John Curtis. But to hold this offense to 28 points, again, it didn't look like the pass game kind of came through, which is not typically what Curtis wants to do. But St. Aug has just been phenomenal all season long. Their offense has been lighting it up. It seems like last week, it is easy to kind of say like, well, they were looking ahead past Holy Cross and kind of count out this Holy Cross defense. I do think the Holy Cross defense has played exceptional, maybe short of this past week for a large part of the season. But St. Aug has so many weapons offensively. They can pass it. They can run it. As you mentioned, Cass, like they're running a freshman back there in Davis. Their running back, Keith Hill, actually went down in week 4, like out for the entire season. So playing 2 new guys along with all their passing, like I've really been impressed with this St. Aug team. And it seems like they just continue to build and continue to grow going into this postseason run where I think they have as good of a shot as anybody to make a run to the Superdome.
No doubt. They also probably have the best interview as a head coach that we could find in Coach Valdez. But aside from him being a great interview, he is a tremendous football coach. And he's got his guys playing as well as anyone in the state at the right time. Before we move on to the next game, Jason, I don't know if you saw this. We got Normal Guy 345. Welcome. We appreciate you tuning in and subscribing. We look forward to getting you through the playoffs. Enjoy the ride, have some fun with us, and tell a friend to tell a friend, and come and like, subscribe, follow us, and have some fun with us.
And follow the Facebook page. Follow the Facebook page. We're 50-something people short.
Somebody get Jason on Facebook. Let's do it. All right, the last game that we'll get into before we start talking playoffs, maybe the game of the night, at least the ending of it. Chalmette travels to Slidell to take on Salmon. Salmon wins 28-24. I was following this game and watched a few plays when Chalmette went up 10, and to be completely honest with you, I turned it off. Chalmette had a 10-point lead with 4 minutes left in the game. Salmon went down and scored with, I think, like 1 minute and 5 left, recovered the onside kick, and with 30 seconds left, scored again. Salmon's quarterback, junior Dejon Howard, has been unbelievable. He scored both touchdowns at the end of the game. He also threw for 233. He caught a touchdown pass. He does it all. This offense for Salmon is extremely explosive. They're well coached. This is a good football team. For Chalmette, on the flip side, that loss and the way that they lost it keeps them out of the playoffs. They were the first team out, which it's tough. It's a shame. That's one of the better defenses, I think, maybe an area that we've talked about really all year long. Just the last 2 weeks, they lose to Slidell in overtime, and then this heartbreaker here to Salmon. Salmon scoring 2 touchdowns in the last 65 seconds of the game to not just clinch a district championship, but propel them into the playoffs.
Yeah, really disappointing finish for the Owls. They had such a great run last year. It felt like they would be at least as good or better this year. And so they had some ups and downs. Like you said, they were a really fun defense for me and Jason to watch against Holy Cross. So it's really kind of head-scratching to see how they ended. But I thought the same thing as far as Salmon. When I was watching the highlights, Dejon Howard, man, he was playing. It looked like everybody was in slow motion. He looked so fast. The scramble towards the end of the game to win the game was unbelievable, and certainly has been the year of the onside kick. And so, unfortunately, it was the onside kick that really did Chalmette high in and gave Salmon a chance to go win the game at the end. And so, yeah, disappointed for Chalmette, but shout out to Salmon. Salmon, I guess they're the district champs of that district now, right? They got to be. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and Salmon has been a team that we've kind of kept our eye on just because look, they've shown that they've got guys all over the field, right? Running back is really exceptional too. Name is escaping me at the moment, but
Rashawn Coleman.
But he's one of them. There's another guy too.
They got 2.
His name's evading me at the moment. But look, this Salmon football team has kind of again been guys, this whole area, right? This whole region, you know, we talked to Mike about North Shore football and this whole region. It's been crazy. Like, it's been up and down. We've talked a lot about 5A, that Baton Rouge district, or like outskirts of Baton Rouge district, kind of the Gonzales, Sandoval area. But this North Shore, region has been so difficult to predict, so difficult to know and pin down what's going to happen. And it feels like Salmon just was the one team that took hold of their opportunities and was able to pull it out. But really, it felt like it could have gone to one of, like 3 or 4 teams. It felt like each week, like you kind of go in, you're not really sure who's going to win the games in that area. So for them to come out with a district title in that area is, it's big for them, especially to cement themselves in part of the playoffs.
Yeah, we got the answer. Jimmy Chansey, the running back. He's the other running back for Salmon. Shout out to Normal Guy coming through tonight.
Yes, we love it. We love it. But that's man, like, you look at Salmon with Coach Shooter, he's done a great job. One thing that's kind of perplexing about this area is that I feel like the teams are, pretty good. The highest seeded team is Lakeshore with a bye, and then you have Jules Sumner, which isn't far away. Everyone else is played in the first round. And then when you look at just this district, Salmon wins the district, and I think they're going in as a 20 seed in the playoffs, and Chalmette missing the playoffs and Fountain Blue missing the playoffs. So it's kind of odd to see that. I don't know if they're just beating up on each other or whatever happens, but it's kind of odd to see some good football teams, and it's just the power ratings, they're just maybe not as highly ranked as what you might think they would be. This discussion on this game is going to bring us right into what we're going to talk about next. We'll get into the brackets. One thing that I would like to say, and this is the game that really I thought about this from, when looking at the playoff brackets, it finally feels like we have a full bracket, and it finally feels like the teams that are going to play in the Superdome are going to earn it, and they're going to earn it for more than 1 or 2 weeks. Like, it's a 4 to 5 week gauntlet that you have to go run, and I think that's a good thing. Like, I don't like that Chalmette did not make the playoffs, but I would rather us have teams that are 6-4 and are pretty good miss the playoffs than have a bracket filled with byes and teams that are 1-9. So I think we've had the split now since 2013, so it's going on 12 years. I don't think that's ever coming back together, but I think we finally got it to where maybe it's the most balanced and most competitive that we could get it with the way that the LHSAA is constituted right now.
To that point, just a few years ago, Coin in New Orleans was on a 50-game losing streak and made the playoffs. Yeah. So our brackets have come a long way. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, it's tough for Chalmette to miss it at 6-4, but that's certainly better than Coin on a 50-game losing streak making the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. It seemed like there was a while there, like 2013 to probably 2018. I mean, we couldn't fill a 16-team bracket, let alone I also like, we were talking about this before we got on air, I like the bye with the way that it's situated. I know back in our day when there was 32 teams in the playoffs, there was no bye, 132 and so on and so forth. But having a bye, that's a true reward. Like, that is a true reward for being a high seed. On the select side, it's the top 8 with a bye. On the non-select side, it is the top 4 with a bye. But that's well earned. There's a 0% chance that those teams are going to lose a game this weekend or get anyone hurt. So I think that works out. And it also makes for some really, really intriguing matchups.
Yeah. I mean, I think I looked. So in 2016, I dug up some numbers, right? Kind of analyzed like what it looked like, guys. There was a team that was winless, and they were in the playoffs, and they were not even the last seed in the playoffs. Like that. This is the reality of what the playoffs used to be before they kind of strengthened up what exactly it was and tightened up the brackets. There was a team that only scored 14 points all year, didn't score a single point until week 9. That was in the playoffs, and they were not the last seed. Like, it's ridiculous. But fortunately, we've kind of got these things resolved. And again, it does feel like you do have to earn your way in, and there is a lot more validity to being able to hoist that state title crown. And rest in peace, the great Rick Gailey always used to say, and it is always true. He said, people can complain all they want about the amount of championships that are played. Regardless, I don't see any teams leaving the trophy out on the field, and it's the truth. Regardless of what people feel, the sentiment is of those who are not involved in that decision-making process. Regardless, it's a state title these kids are going to remember, and they're going to hang the banner on the wall, and it's going to have every meaning, regardless if some people feel like it's not as much regardless. So to the point about 10 team brackets, I don't know about you guys, but those 10 team brackets in Division I Select, I know, Lance, you were a part of it. Still some pretty dang difficult playoff brackets to fight through when you talk about the Catholic League and then pulling in Bird, and I think it was like Scotlandville and a few other teams. So still, fun playoff to come and really exciting playoff season this year.
Yeah, no, I just think. Go ahead. Yeah, and I just looking at them, like, it just feels. I don't know. If just looking at the brackets, it feels like there's really good matchups that are going to happen, not just next week, but when the top seeds get up back on the field, and you're going to have to earn it. And I think that's great for the kids. Like, they're going to get to experience what a real playoff run and playoff atmospheres are like. And I've said this, and Lance coached on it on the football side. I was actually a beneficiary, if you want to call that, on the baseball side. We had to win one series, and we were in Salford for a state championship. And it kind of the kids don't get to go experience that, and it kind of takes away from their whole playoff experience. And I think the way that it is right now is about as good as we're going to get it. And if that means that there's some really good teams that lose in the quarterfinals, well, then that means they're really good teams that lose in the quarterfinals. Like, I think, is 8 teams probably too many for our state of our size? Probably so. But I don't think we're going any less than that. And I think right now it's about as good as they can get. So we're going to enjoy the heck out of it. That's for sure. That is for sure. Let's look at it. We'll go Division I Select first. Any big takeaways from you guys? I know Carr, the number 1 overall seed, Turling's Catholic, the 2 seed. And then St. Aug we talked about is the 3 seed, but the one that stands out to me when just looking at this bracket, aside from all the teams with the byes, you have a team in St. Thomas More as a 10 seed, and that could be a very dangerous 10 seed in this bracket.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stood out to me, just the top of the bracket, I think. I know Ash hasn't played their best ball the last couple of weeks, but I think at most points of the season, you would have said that Carr, Ash, and Catholic were probably the 3 best teams in this division, and they are all pretty on top of each other, right? And so that was the first thing that stood out to me. Beyond that, at 6 seed, Tioga lost by 35 this past week to Franklin Parish. Franklin Parish, they're a good football team, but to see these seeds and just knowing that, Tioga just lost that way to a smaller school and they're still sitting at 6 seed as a Holy Cross alum, feels pretty good to be where you're at if you're Holy Cross.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at the bracket, you're seeing that there are 2 smaller schools that are in prime spots, and they're both on the bottom part of the bracket in Tioga and Turling's Catholic. And that definitely does stand out. Rummel and Holy Cross are matched up with Tioga. I think that's that becomes a very interesting matchup. It's a rematch of a game that was previously played, and the winner of that's matched up with St. Aug. I think when you also look at the bottom part of the bracket, Turling's is a team that's unbeaten and really deservedly so, but it seems like there's a part of the system that needs to be fixed. And it's this idea that we're going to put the teams that are in a specific division and move them up. Because when you look at the teams that they're going to be facing, so if you win round, so you get to play either the winner of Riverdale and Bonneville, and then you're going to have to play the winner of Curtis and St. Thomas More. Like, I know they've already played St. Thomas More, but it definitely does feel a little bit skewed. The top part of this bracket does feel super top heavy. Like the top part with Carr, Evangel, Alexandria, and Catholic, I think I do like this St. Paul's Avenue of maybe getting to play Evangel in round 2. I think that would be a really fun one to watch. But ultimately, this is look once you get to that regional round and you move forward to the quarterfinal round, and man, it's really just going to be some excellent football in this bracket.
Yeah, no doubt. And just that top part of the bracket probably feels so top heavy. If Ash beats Neville, they're not in the top part of the bracket. So I think that's the fact that with the way that we do playoffs with power ratings, every single game matters. And, and it could matter, and it could determine matchups in the playoffs and so on and so forth. I think that's a product of that. In the Division I non-select bracket, we've got the number one overall seed Ruston earning a bye. Neville, another 2-5A team, as a 2 seed and a bye. Destrehan and Denham Springs. Maybe Denham Springs, maybe the surprise bye team out of this group. But that Neville, Ruston, and then you look down at West Monroe. It's the 10 seed again. As a 10 seed, West Monroe, we could have a Neville West Monroe quarterfinal matchup.
I think Ruston has the easiest draw here, which is well deserved as the 1 seed. That's how it should play out. But I'm looking at these top 4 seeds, and these are, without question, these 4 teams really earned these buys. They played. We've talked so much about all 4 of those teams because they played tough schedules from week 1 all the way through week 10. Destrehan even traveled up to Shreveport to play a non-district game, and also I think these are the buys that are earned, deserved, and needed because they've really run the ringer through the first 10 weeks. Like you said, of course, the one that really stands out here is West Monroe being in a 10 seed. We know how good that football team is. I've already mentioned it on this show, but their 3 losses are the best 3 losses you could possibly have. And so they're a dangerous 10 seed. The other one I'm looking at is potential matchup, early Zachary and Denham Springs. That would be a rematch, I believe, correct?
Yeah. Well, that whole bottom part of the bracket, right? That whole set, like 5 through 4 seed part of the bracket is – it feels like the Baton Rouge portion of the bracket, right? You'd have Salmon from the North Shore, but look, East Ascension's there, Central's there.
Central, right, yep.
I mean, Zachary, Denham Springs, like it feels like, hey, we've seen each other before, and, we might be facing off in a few weeks. I think that's a very fascinating portion of the bracket for sure. Yeah,
no doubt. It's funny how that works out, too. It seems to always kind of happen where the teams that are same area or – it always seems like the same types of teams are always kind of bundled up in the bracket for whatever reason. So it's funny how that works out. But deep nonetheless when you talk about West Monroe being a 10 seed. Let's go to the Division II select bracket. The Division II select bracket, we have the 1 seed, as we mentioned earlier, the St. Charles Comets. The 2 seed, Loyola Prep, a team that could put up points in bunches. The one that stands out to me when looking at this bracket is a potential in the quarterfinals of St. Charles and E.D. White. And that could be, I think St. Charles far and away has been the best team in this division all year long, but that could be a matchup. Just with styles make fights, that could be a matchup that maybe can make that ball game a lot closer than maybe it either should be or can be in other circumstances. The other one, another potential rematch with Madison Prep and U High in the quarterfinals.
I think the main thing I took from this bracket is the top 8 seeds are truly the top 8 teams. I believe like these are, if you just put them on a hat and had to pick out who you wanted the top 8 to be, I think these are truly the top 8. So I like how the seedings kind of fell out. It does feel a little bit like some of the best teams are maybe at the top and they're going to face off, obviously before the dome, but I do like where the top 8 seeds fell here. I think if you're Loyola Prep, you're really happy with where you are. We saw those guys. They've been very impressive all year long. So I think you're really happy as the 2 seed of how these seedings played out. If there's a matchup I'm really looking for, it's in that second round, it would be John F. Kennedy versus Madison Prep. Kennedy, there's not many teams that have the athletes to match up with Madison Prep, but Kennedy does. I'm not saying they're going to beat Madison Prep, but I think that is the most intriguing matchup that would line up in that second round.
And no, I totally agree with you. I was going to make a note of that too. I think that Kennedy team has a lot of athleticism on it, and when you look at where potentially there could be a way for somebody to slip in. It feels like this is going to be a lot of chalk in this bracket, and typically, I mean, with the new system, you typically see a lot of chalk, right? But I do feel like that Kennedy Madison Prep matchup, well, potentially, I should say, a Kennedy Madison Prep matchup in the regional round would be really interesting. Again, St. Michael and La Roger winner would take on Edie White. I think that could be an interesting matchup.
If LaRonger's running back Rylan James is healthy for that game, would not shock me to see LaRonger as a 24 seed and the last team in go win. Funny note, and I know this because I work at the place that did it last year. St. Michael's was a 9 seed last year and lost to the 24 seed Hannon in the first round as well.
Yeah, I mean, and look, St. Michael does have some players too now. They got a really talented running back out there as well who, he transferred over from McKinley. He's really been a big part of their offense this year. But again, I do think it's definitely a potential opportunity there. But for the most part, if you look at the top half of this bracket, the top 4 teams in it, it really does feel like those could have been semifinal matchups, right? Yeah. St. Charles, Edie White, Madison Prep, U High. If you would have told me if you would have asked me coming in, I would have told you that was really a good shot at being on opposite sides of the bracket and lining up in the semis. So we'll see how it shakes out. But again, I think Loyola Prep at the bottom in that 2 spot has, again, been putting up a lot of points. Going to face off against a Shaw team that has been, well, again, if chalk goes in the quarterfinals. So I think that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, it feels like the top 8 are very much earned, as was stated earlier.
Yeah, and it's funny too. We're sitting here looking at it, and it all feels like chalk until someone gets upset.
Yeah, that's true.
It's funny, and it's going to happen. We just don't know where. But no, this does look like a pretty top heavy bracket. In the Division II non-select bracket, we got the 1 seed North DeSoto, owner of what may be the best win of anyone in the state. They went to West Monroe and won. The 2 seed Iowa, a team that made the semifinals last year as well. So they are back. The 3 seed Belle Chase, a team that played St. Charles tough, and then the next week goes and knocks off Shaw, shuts them out. And then the 4 seed Lakeshore. The very interesting matchup possibly in the second round with Lakeshore and the defending state champ Cecilia. Cecilia last year is a state champ. Similar spot. They were actually lower than a 13 seed, but gets into the playoffs, plays well, makes a run, and wins the state championship. So let's see if they can do that again. Also keep an eye on Franklinton as an 8 seed. Possibility of them playing North DeSoto in the quarterfinals. But I think it's good. Belle Chase looks like they might have a path to get play at least to Thanksgiving, if not further.
Feels like North DeSoto is the clear-away favorite in this one. Yeah. Outside of North DeSoto, I feel like this is the toughest one to predict of all of them. For some of the reasons you already mentioned, Cecilia is the reigning state champ at that 13 seed. I want to say they were the 13 seed last year when they won the state championship. Is that correct? Right. It was close. It was something like that. We talked about them every week. Yeah, they were in the teens. And so it's crazy how that plays out again. If you're Lakeshore, that's not the team you'd want to see in your first playoff game. But you already talked about Belle Chase. We know they have a great defense and a good quarterback. They got basically the formula for success. And then Franklin Parish, we've already talked about on this show because they just beat up Tioga, top seed in Division I select. And so this feels like the bracket that is going to be not chalk. It's really hard to figure out who's going to end up where. I mean, even looking at Lucha as a double digit seed. So Terrebonne has been pretty good at times this year. Iowa is like the quietest 10-0. I think they're 10-0. They're the quietest 10-0 I think we've had in the state. So who knows how good they are, right? And so this is a tough bracket to figure out.
Guys, Cecilia played every game on the road. They were an 18 seed last year. So this is actually different, right? They get to actually get a home game this year. So, I mean, that might be unfamiliar territory. But in all seriousness, I agree, Lance. I think this bracket has a ton of teams with potential. Like Bruley is a team that I mentioned earlier in the season as a team that puts up a lot of offense and it holds teams defensively. It looks like, again, if chalk holds, they would play West Feliciana, who's a team we haven't gotten to talk a lot about, but is regularly, a quarterfinal type football team. Franklin Parish, again, if chalk holds, Franklin Parish playing a team in Abbeville that won 0 football games a year ago. I think they've won 3 or 4 football games this year, which has been a big difference. But they're lined up against Lutcher, so I think a Franklin Parish Lutcher round 2 game would be just really exciting to watch. A South Terrebonne Northwest matchup in round 1. Winner goes and plays Iowa. Iowa has been a team that's, again, somebody said it earlier, like quietly 10-0. I don't know how a team can be quietly 10-0, but they really have been. Jevian Adams in that backfield has been really exceptional, along with some other guys on that team. So I don't know. I think this is very wide open. It feels like North DeSoto is and has been the front runner for a large portion of this year, but don't sleep on Plaquemine at 5. And North DeSoto would have to potentially play either the winner of a Jennings or Franklinton type game. Heck, guys, Jennings is lined up with St. Martinville. St. Martinville isn't an easy out either. So I don't know, man. This bracket kind of is the one that has me spinning the most because there's so many ways or avenues of the road to the Dome. This is probably the toughest one to make solid prediction on for who is getting to the Dome.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then when you talk about, and we know what North DeSoto is, but they also, how wide open this bracket is. They could face Franklinton in the quarterfinals. It's a Franklin team that returned a lot from a team that made it to the Superdome last year. So very interesting Division II non-select bracket. Division III select bracket, the 1 seed, no shocker here, the LCA Knights. Maybe pound for pound, the most impressive team in the state all year long. Their district foe, Notre Dame, is the 2 seed down at the bottom of the bracket. You have a Newman team with new coach Vice. They've kind of found themselves. They get the 4 seed. This North Lake Christian team at 12, they play St. Louis Catholic with the winner getting Dunham. That is a team that if they could put it all together with how athletic they are and how multiple they are on offense, could pose some problems. I'm also looking at a possible Dunham-Newman quarterfinals, which could be a lot of fun. This bracket, and I think we've said it multiple times on the show, maybe the deepest bracket of all the brackets. Even if you kind of take LCA out of it, I think they're one of the most talented teams in the state. But just how deep everyone else is, and then don't forget Jules Sumner down there as the 3 seed as well.
When I look at this one, I kind of feel like it's similar to the Division I select bracket in the sense that LCA is kind of like the car of this division, I think, where nobody wants to play them. But there's a lot of good football teams in this bracket that are going to make them work for it for sure. A lot of intriguing matchups, a lot of teams just playing well at the right time. You think about Newman, they haven't lost since week 2, I believe. And so they get better literally every single week. They look better with Jake Randall throwing the football all of a sudden all over the place. And then you're looking at a likely matchup of LCA versus Dunham. I mean, what a quarterback matchup that would be if that plays. Right? Elijah Haven of Dunham facing that LCA squad. And then, of course, don't count out some of the great teams at the bottom, Calvary Baptist. Jules Sumner, they're going to certainly get their chance to really prove how good they are as they would face like a Calvary Baptist. If there was a team that I think could make a run from the kind of double-digit line would be Pope John Paul. I'd like to see that Pope John Paul Jules Sumner matchup. I just know the way they can play defense and run the football. I think that would be a dangerous team that will maybe fly under the radar in this division. Yeah,
and Slaughter kind of runs a similar kind of like slow down gun tee type of style. So kind of trying to accomplish similar things to St. Paul. Pope John Paul. When you look at the bottom bracket as well, you have a meet lined up with Lafayette. Again, you have to beat Cohen first, but lined up against Lafayette Renaissance. I think that would be a really fun one to watch. Episcopal De La Salle in round one is an interesting one. Both teams really like to run the football. And the winner would have to go on the road to Crowley to play Notre Dame. Calvary Baptist defeated, we talked about them a few moments ago, Franklin Parish. And they're in this bottom portion of the bracket, potentially lined up to play Country Day and follow it up with Jewel Sumner with the win. Again, all potentially if chalk holds. I think that'd be a really fun one to watch. Guys, I'm interested to see Dunham in this Dunham team in this bracket. Catholic New Iberia, a potential round two matchup against Bunkie, I think could be fun. I think a North Lake Christian Dunham matchup would be fun to see as well, because this North Lake Christian team does have a lot of size. How would they match up against Elijah Haven? Like, there's so many different avenues and ways to look at this one. I think of course, your eyes are going to be drawn to number one in Lafayette Christian. But other than that, like, I think there's a lot of fun potential matchups here.
Feels like there's a lot of really good football programs in this Division III bracket. Not just, good teams, but good programs. But this is definitely going to be one of the more fun brackets of the playoffs. Division III non-select 1 seed, the Gina Giants. The 1 seed, you have the Sterlington Panthers down as the 2 seed. It's a Sterlington team that went toe-to-toe with Neville, lost by a touchdown. A program that is traditionally in the Superdome. St. James as a 3 seed, another team that extremely talented, had a great year, obviously. And then Kinder, a proud football program, as the 4 seed. Oak Grove, we talked about them earlier. They get the 6 seed. They're going to have Port Allen in round 1, but maybe a possible Oak Grove St. James quarterfinals. Erath, a team that's undefeated, they're a 5 seed. They get Bogalusa, who Bogalusa comes in as a 28 seed. So Erath, a team they haven't lost. That could be an interesting team too. I think they made a run last year in the playoffs. And then St. Helena at number 17, team that kind of caught fire late in that district with Pope John Paul. They kind of came out of nowhere. They won that district. They won the district with North Lake Christian and Pope John Paul. So they could be interesting if they could find a way to win, maybe give Gina some trouble in round 2.
Yeah, this is another one that's going to be tough, just a tough bracket to predict. You've seen how good St. James has been at times this year. I think you like where, if you're St. James, I think you like where, you kind of fell. With that said, Oak Grove at the 6th seed, probably much better than maybe they're seeded just from what we've seen of recent weeks. The other one is Union Parish in that 12th seed. That's another real good one to be as low as a 12 seed. So I think as you get to these smaller schools, man, some of the seedings, it's tough to you can't really take those seedings as is, because some of these teams, they played really tough schedules and lost a couple games that many of these teams would have lost, and so that's where I think you find these Union Parishes and some of these teams like Cecilia, like we just talked about in the previous bracket, right? And so, this is another one that's just hard to really see how this whole bracket will play out.
And guys, a team that I find interesting here is the 7 seed Lorville. They played a few weeks back. They played Catholic and New Iberia, and it really went. I talked about it with you guys. I'm not sure if it was off air or on air at one point, but really ran the ball exceptionally well against, coming into the season, I would have argued is one of the most difficult defenses to move the football against. So that in that 7 seed lined up against Church Point in North Webster would be interesting. In round 1 matchups, I love this Donaldsonville Westlake matchup. Westlake is the team, the Rams, for those guys wondering. The Rams, again, I like what they're able to do.
What's their colors?
They are Halloween colors, same as Union Parish.
Right.
They're black and orange. I think they got one of the cleanest looks, one of the cleanest uniform combinations. Both
Making
of them.
Sure you're paying attention, Jason. That's all.
Oh, I'm on my game, man.
Yeah.
I got it. But the winner of that plays Sterlington, and Sterlington is a team that's played a really difficult schedule. And if chalk runs and we're going to get a semifinal matchup game of St. James Sterlington, a game that was played in the Dome a year ago, like, I really like a lot of the games that are here. Again, Gina at that top seed. look, Avoyelles is a team that's won, again, line up against the winner of Avoyelles and St. Helena. Avoyelles is a team that's reeled off, I believe it's 6 straight or 7 straight wins to make their way to the playoffs. Guys, doing my preseason research, I haven't really dug into them recently, but I know it's like, I believe they either won the state championship in track last year or they were up there, and nothing but track guys. Like, this is a fast football team in Avoyelles. So I think when you look at a round one game, when you're playing a bunch of track stars, again, who knows what will happen. But this is another very interesting matchup. And again, week 2, possibly looking at Erath Union Parish. Man, sign me up. I really think this is one of the more head-scratching brackets where you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. And especially when you get down to this Division 3, Division 4, there's so many teams that are, maybe they're a 1A team, but they're playing up in Division 3, and they're crisscrossing divisions and classifications. So that plays a lot into it too. Some of these schools, some just may have more players, so they're able to maybe have not as many guys go both ways. So very interesting, and it makes for some very fun and entertaining football games. Division 4 select bracket, we have the 1 seed Westminster Christian. We've got the 2 seed Riverside. It's still Washita Christian as a 7 seed. They dropped that game to Oak Grove. They go 9-1. Ascension Episcopal, a team that first-year coach Jay DiMaggio has the Blue Gators playing well. This one feels maybe as wide open as any. Covenant Christian, the team I got to see in week 3 or 4, they are as athletic and as physical as a team in Division 4 is going to be. So it wouldn't, if they make a run, it would not shock me at all. Jason, we got your St. Edmund Blue Jays right there as a 9 seed. Yeah. They might go try to score 100 points this week. All they do is score points. So this one just feels extremely open. I wouldn't be shocked if any one of these 8 that get a bye win it all, or if someone comes out of the first rounds looking at you, Southern Lab or Kentwood, and makes a run. So this bracket may be as fun as any.
I think the main thing is to know is how many schools have Christian and Catholic in the name of their schools. Like, this is every one of these schools. Man. Yeah. But this is the team that I'm cheering for, I know, is Riverside. I saw Riverside play week 2. Very impressed by Riverside. Riverside took Terrebonne, who's the 9 seed of Division 1 non-select, all the way into the 4th quarter and lost by a touchdown. Like, that's how good this Riverside team is, how tough they are. So really excited to see what kind of run they make. And then the schools that stand out to me are Southern Lab sitting at a 10 seed, Kentwood sitting at an 11 seed. Before this bracket came out, I thought they were both in non-select, to be honest. But those 2 teams, I don't think anybody wants to face either one of those teams in this bracket.
Well, we've talked about OCS. OCS would be lined up with Southern Lab, so imagine that being your first game. After having lost to Oak Grove, that would be a really tough draw for them. Hamilton Christian is a team that we've talked maybe not a ton about, but again, really a team on both sides of the football have been dominant, has really been impressive. They're a team that could find their way. It's what I find is, man, there's so many teams that could make a run. Like Opelousas Catholic is sitting at a 16 seed. They're across from Westminster Christian, and they played each other earlier in the season. That was a 2-point football game, guys. Like, this is so just because you're a 1 seed or a 2 seed or a 3 seed doesn't mean anything in this bracket. It feels like the one where a lot of teams can win. Sacred Heart sitting at a 13 seed against Westminster Christian of Lafayette, not Opelousas, number 1 seed. Again, they could see a rematch with Catholic Point Capee. Ascension Catholic is a team that's been very quiet, but still considering compared to these other teams. St. Edmund, the Blue Jays, as we've talked about, potentially has another opportunity to take on Westminster Christian, which is they would love the chance to do, but it's very wide open. I think one of the more fun, interesting brackets is because you don't know who's going to shake out.
Yeah.
It's really a fun one to watch.
Don't
Feels like
forget
not
about
only-
the 21 seed now, the St. Mary's
Yep.
Tigers. Don't forget about them.
There you go.
Yep, no doubt. But this of all brackets, this is the one. It feels like there's not a favorite. There's not even a top 4 favorites. I feel like
Yeah.
you know. What I mean, anybody could win. Anybody could lose in most of these matchups.
Yeah, it feels like they're almost all the same, and that's not a slight to anybody. That's just
Right.
they're all very evenly matched. So that'll be a fun one to watch. Our final bracket, 8th and final bracket, Division 4 non-select. Haynesville, the 1 seed. That's happened, however, since the Earth has been spinning. It feels like the 2 seed, Dragons of Mangum, and then you got South Platte as the 3 and Jeanerette as the 4. This is another one. I guess it's just this this Division 4, both select and non-select, very wide open. I think there may be a tier though between Haynesville, Mangum, and the rest of the field. Although South Platte is talented enough to go play with anyone, They'll be fun to go watch and see how they progress through. But again, another bracket that feels fairly open. But I do think there is some separation between the top 2. You could even throw South Platte into that group, maybe top 3 teams and the rest of the groups.
Yeah, that was exactly my take. South Platte, they brought it back a lot from their state championship team last year. Roderick Parker, the quarterback, he's back. And so anytime you bring back a state champ quarterback, you're going to be tough to beat in the playoffs. But, yeah, I would completely agree. I looked at this bracket and thought, again, these top 4 seeds are the top 4 teams in this bracket, which is how you usually want it to play out. And so, yeah, I think this is there's a little bit more of the same when it comes to this bracket, when you talk about these great programs in Haynesville, Mangum, and South Platte.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm looking at this, guys. A game I really would be interested to see. I think it would be so much fun. Is I'm looking at we have Elton and LaSalle, and then you lined up against North Iberville and Arcadia. North Iberville has one of the most fun offenses, maybe, to watch in this bracket, and to go up against Elton. And I've talked about Elton before with just that power eye run. Again, they do go into some gun, but really just they like to run the football. Meanwhile, the contrast and style of North Iberville of just spreading it out, I think would be really fun to watch. East Feliciana is a team that's been surprising. Again, if chalk holds their crash collision to play Faraday round 2, I think that would be a ton of fun. There's to your guys' point, it does feel like there's a bit of a line in the sand drawn. Like it does feel like there's a difference when you look at 1, 2, 3. I think Jeanerette could easily be in that conversation, but I know they've had a lot of injuries this season. They've still played teams above their belt and held and hung tight, won some of those games. I really like Jeanerette, but again, due to those injuries, who knows how much that's going to impact them. But looking at those teams that are still on the line playing week 1, North Iberville, East Feliciana, really interesting. Elton is a team I'd keep my eye on as well. Just a bracket that does feel like there's a few teams you can maybe be able to quote unquote pencil in, but still a really fun bracket.
That is the 8 brackets for which the playoffs will be played. The road to the Dome has been laid out for all of the teams that have made the playoffs here in the state of Louisiana. Anything other than all that we've talked about, but anything that maybe stands out before we hop off?
Wes?
I mean, I'm intrigued by the Division II select bracket for a lot of reasons we already talked about. I think St. Charles Catholic has a really tough route, really from their first game to, if they can make it to the Dome. I think they have a tough route as a 1 seed. And a team I didn't really talk enough about when we were on that Division I select is Acadiana. I think if there's a team that's going to shock that Division I bracket at the bottom half of it, I think it's Acadiana. They've won 7 straight. We know their style of play. They have St. Aug in the second round. If they get past St. Aug, they're going to have a Tioga, Rummel, Holy Cross. I mean, I think Acadiana as a can't remember exactly what seed they are. I want to not 10. They're a little lower than 10, maybe
14. They're 14.
14.
Yeah.
So as a 14, that was one that stood out to me. Just knowing they started off 0-3, they haven't lost since.
So it's funny you mentioned that one, Lance, because I was going to go to that one, but the other way around, just in terms of, look, these are two teams in Acadiana and Karen Grove. They're playing back-to-back weeks. How difficult is it to play a team in back-to-back weeks and win? And this is a Karen Grove team that's, again, Chance Babineau. Again, they have a Guernsey at quarterback, like a really solid guy. They run different types of offenses. It's a dangerous team to play against. Then you go to the bottom. Interestingly, another rematch, right? In two teams that just played for a district title in Riverdale and Bonneville, except the host team, Riverdale, lost that football game. They lost to Bonneville. So you lose, and then you somehow host the next playoff game against them. Like, just a weird dynamic. But I do think that, to your point, that could be interesting. But sticking in that Division I select bracket, these lower classification teams getting these bye weeks and having to play maybe above their level, right? So you have Turlings Catholic, who's been undefeated. They've beaten a lot of good football teams, and they've beaten St. Thomas more earlier in the year. But again, you got to play Curtis, you got to play St. Aug. Like, it's going to be difficult. And then you got Tioga, who you win, you get a bye, right? But you have to play some of the best defenses in the state, whether it's Holy Cross or Rummel that comes to you. And of course, they have a really dynamic offense, but that's a really tough, even a home game to draw. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of intrigue in this Division I select bracket, but overall, like, some really wide open brackets on the lower end. It should be a lot of fun diving in Tuesday.
I was going to point out one more that will be a potential rematch. I didn't really talk about Division I non-select, the 2 seed Neville. They are staring down West Monroe again. I think it was the third round, West Monroe being a 10 seed. West Monroe is a heck of a 10 seed. And even, up top, if there was one I was going to go real deep on as far as an upset, would be Natchitoches Central. We know how they play in an incredible district. They're a very good 24 seed, I believe. So I would not be shocked if there was a team in the 20s that I thought might make a little noise. Natchitoches Central was going to be the one I was going to go with.
Owen Smith, quarterback, man. He's
good quarterback,
phenomenal.
great coaches, battle tested.
No doubt. And Terrebonne's a team that lost in the first round last year. I think it was Chalmette that got him. But two things, and we'll stay in both the Division I brackets. On the non-select side, because most of these teams are in that bracket, but what is 1-5A going to do? What are the teams in 1-5A that score 100 points? I'm joking, kind of, a game. What are they going to do when the playoffs come? Also in that bracket, a very interesting – we have Ouachita Parish as a 14 seed. If they can beat St. Amant and face Destrehan, these two teams played in the playoffs last year, played a close game. Like, that's a Ouachita Parish team that's maybe just a product of the district, so they're a 14 seed. That's a scary 14 seed. And then on the Division I select side, just how like you've got to earn it. I mean, when Acadiana is a 14 seed, that is so exciting to see, and it's what a playoff bracket should look like. Like, this is a whole lot of fun. Also, with Catholic and Carr being on the same side, these two played in the semis last year. Carr won 17-10. Like, this is not – yes, Carr's the best team in the state. I say by far. They're the best team in the state. I think no one can argue with that. But Catholics, if that we're looking way down the road, Catholic's not going to be scared. Like, there's going to be Carr's going to have to earn their way to the Superdome if they want to go defend their state championship. So a lot of fun, man. I can't wait. This is going to be a blast. On Tuesday, we are going to dig into the first round matchups to get you ready for Friday night. And then we will recap the week that was on Sunday before looking ahead to round 2. So again, on Tuesday night, 8:05, you can catch us right here in X, YouTube, or BSN. We will dig into the first round matchups of the playoffs. The playoffs are here. It's cold, as it should be. This is a lot of fun, best time of the year, and we are excited that you are along for the ride with us. So while we still got you, like, subscribe, follow us on X, YouTube, Jason, Facebook. Get them on Facebook, man.
Facebook. Listen,
Yeah.
not the Facebook. The Facebook group is great. We appreciate you on the Facebook group. We need you on the Facebook page.
That's right.
We only have 40 something people. We need to get to
Get it up.
100. We're trying to be able to live stream from Facebook, and we cannot do that. Even with 100, we might not be able to do it, but we're going to try
We'll figure it out. That's right.
Yeah,
we're in demand on Facebook. That's right. But there you go. Thanks for following along. Looking forward to covering the next 5 weeks. It'll be some of the best football played in the state is going to be played in the next 5 weeks. So we can't wait to watch that unfold. For Lance, Jason, I am Cass. Thank you for watching Talking Ball, y'all. We will see y'all on Tuesday night to preview round 1 of the LHSAA state playoffs.